So I received a question the other day. It was on Facebook, but it occurred to me that while we do have a video about the Advanced tab on CMX2, apparently some people haven't seen it. So we're going to talk about the Advanced tab again today real quick to kind of give you an idea of what is possible, right? So CMX2, obviously one of our most popular panels, is designed to take a color palette from an image. In this case, I've selected a sunset image and apply it to your own image, right? In this case, I have a shot of Jenny in white sand. So let's go ahead, start with CMX2, extracting our little sort of sunset beachy shot here. That's the bottom left button on CMX2 while I'm on that image. So let's hit that, do a quickie extraction, and now we have it. All right, now let's go to our shot of Jenny. We're going to focus on that. Now we have a palette. Now, as a reminder while we're here, CMX2 went ahead and extracted a full palette and a full analysis. So if you get 5 samples back like we have on top here, it doesn't mean that there aren't more. It just means that that's what it recommends. So if I increase the samples, you'll see other colors from the sunset. Probably shouldn't have closed them off. There you go. You'll see other colors from the sunset start to show up. And when you have something that has a lot of different variation like the sunset shot, you can see lots of different options. Now, when that happens, you notice that some of the gradient, the gradient that it creates is built by luminosity range. However, perceptively, it could look a little off. You see the banding, and this is why we have smoothness to smooth out the overall color grade. If you smooth it all the way, it kind of meshes it together. It's like a bunch of paints on a palette, and you smear them around until they become one color, right? So we can blend that in. Now we can play with that still actively. Let's go to our shot of Jenny. Use the second button and we will apply it. Now, there it is. Now, a couple of things that have happened. For one, my CMX2 is on default mode. So it applied it at 35% opacity, the gradient, in the soft light blending mode. So therefore, it looks from this to this very subtle look. I can increase the opacity, and as you can see, that look gets stronger. And then I can increase this level, which simply brightens, okay? Very useful when you want to do that sort of thing. Now, let's go ahead and double click the titles, kind of get them back to their defaults. Of course, we have different blend modes, right? We have overlay, which is a slightly stronger version of soft light, essentially. And we have hue and color. Now, hue and color tend to look better at very low opacities, right? So if you put it down to like 11 or something like that, maybe 14, it tends to look a little bit better. However, all that aside, we have another option, this middle button here. And that is our advanced editor. Now, not only does the advanced editor give you more granular control of things, let me go ahead and move this over. There we go. Gives you more granular control of things. It also allows us to really get experimental. So for example, we just showed you the blend modes. Let me show you one more options that we have. Those blend modes are reflected down here, okay? You notice how this one says normal because just a minute ago, I had changed it. How do we do that? That's the question I got. People didn't realize this was possible. You right click any of these 4 banks, if you will, because you can make these whatever you want. So let's right click normal. You get a little arrow, click that. Now every blend mode is available. Now, full disclosure, every single blend mode isn't going to be the most useful for you, okay? For example, if I put on divide and then select divide and then increase the opacity, you get some pretty experimental results at higher opacities. But if you make it lower, this could be exactly what you were after for some reason. I don't know. But you do have that option to right click any of these banks, which will trigger the arrow, hit the arrow, and then choose a new blend mode like hard light. And then now hard light's one of your options. You never know how useful that can be. And if you move the opacity up and down, you get all sorts of choices. You can also right click overlay. In this case, I happen to have overlay and make it, again, anything. It could be, I don't know. It could be pin light for some reason. And you click on pin light and you start getting certain type of results. In this case, you don't really see much difference. But the idea is to experiment and to play around and see what you can do. Now, other options, I should say, let's go ahead and put it on something more normal. I'm going to right click hard light, click the little arrow. We're going to put it back on soft light and choose soft light. Maybe choose a nice opacity like that. Cool. Now, another thing we can do in the advanced tab, since we have everything detailed here, the top row here is the actual extracted palette, right? If we change the samples, that will change actively. See that? Okay. Now, below it, this gradient with these little swatches shows you the blending of the smoothness. As you can see, when you increase the smoothness, you can see the results. So this is the input, if you will, palette. This is the output of the palette. This is actually what you're applying. All right, now what are all these other colors underneath, all right? All these little swatches. When CMX2 analyzes the image, it finds options in different luminosity ranges. So yes, it found the orange, let's say right here, to be, a little bit more of a priority compared to the other colors in that luminosity range, but it did find others. So you can quickly swap one out. To really show this, I'm going to put the opacity up. Let's say on these oranges, I want a purple instead, and I want a blue instead. It changes the energy and the vibe of the shot a little bit because now I've swapped those out. And they're always going to match in luminosity, even if they don't match in hue and saturation. Keep that in mind. So for example, on this orange one, if I hit yellow, I get a pretty dramatic difference because that yellow is pretty strong. And I can always actively blend it less or more. If I have no blending, you see there's a lot of banding on the image. And if I blend it all the way, well, it all comes together nice and blended. See that? Very, very cool. So I can swap out and quickly see options in the different luminosity ranges. These are not arbitrary colors. These are colors that CMX found in the luminosity ranges on the source image. And they think, it's a suggestion for you. So suddenly now everything went to the warm angle. Now I have a completely different palette. It doesn't matter where you start. It's matter that you get, what matters, I should say, is that you get to where you want to be by exploring with CMX2. Now we have a very yellow look. See, it's just a matter of playing. We can choose any radical blend mode, like I said, and we can choose different alternates, if you will, on the color. And when you close that out, all that is reflected on the main palette, so you can keep working. So if you decide here you don't like the yellow, you can just click the yellow, temporarily turned off, and you keep rolling. So that's just kind of like giving you abilities to explore, not necessarily randomly, but to get inspired by things that maybe you hadn't thought about. And don't forget that middle button on the bottom. Some people, in fact, this one artist, is the DM that I got from him. He said, I clicked the middle button and this whole other thing popped up. I've never seen it. I get it. Not everybody watches every single video before they purchase something. And so when I walked him through it, he got very excited. So I just thought today I'd give everybody another overview because I think we only have one video on the advanced tab. There's some thoughts for you there. Any questions, leave a comment below, of course. But there you go. Advanced options in CMX2 to really, really play and explore.